give them a round of applause, and then we're going to jump in to the conversation around Africa and the opportunities that exist inside the business sector. So let's start off with your name and a brief description of what you do.
Hello, I'm Artem. I'm from Avisa Finance. So we last mile payout, FX treasury liquidity provider for majority of African countries. We were founded actually in Kenya in 2013 as a crypto-based company and blockchain-based company to make this settlement between African countries and African currencies. So we did crypto. Back then it was not popular yet. But right now we moved mostly to fiat. We still do crypto. We provide services for remittance companies, MTOs, B2B, as mentioned, to exotic African currencies, to crypto, and to other businesses. Thank you.
Next up.
My name is Dr. Christina Ram, and I've spent a lot of time in Africa in health and wellness. We have worked with different countries or different groups throughout Africa. And through this, over the last couple of years, we've brought in new wellness products, and we're bringing in a fintech system. So we've been able to gather resources from Africa as well as put resources into Africa. But it can be a challenge, so it's interesting to be part of this discussion.
Hi, I'm Jayden Sage. I run GCC, Global Crypto Council. It's an advisory for governments on crypto adoption, as well as we have an investment fund that invests in Web3 companies that focus especially on Workify and play-to-earn concepts that will facilitate the developing world to be able to derive value and sustainability of an income source outside of the traditional venues. Also runs Celestial Ventures, which is an investment fund in the space industry.
Network. My name is Clayton Thomas. I'm the founder and CEO of the Root Brands. We're a social sharing ecosystem disguised as a lifestyle brand with a foundational focus on creating greatness in health and the simple aspect, since we're all in tech, of actually creating the software to upgrade the human body in all aspects.
Next up.
Hi. Thank you all for being here. I'm really glad I can speak on this subject. My name is Goudet, Abalé, and not Goudet Abalé, but I believe it's a mistake. I've been working on the African continent for the past 5 years with governments, private entities, global companies such as Facebook and stuff. And so basically what we do at Avisa Partners, we consider ourselves like trust providers. So we provide services in terms of reputation management, in terms of financial investigations, intelligence, cybersecurity audit, all of this to be able to build trust in the Web3 ecosystem, to make sure that the growth of the ecosystem is rendered possible by the trust of the institutional actors. So that's mainly this. I've been in blockchain since 2017, both in academics, advisory, and private sector. So that's it.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, this works. So I don't need a mic. I just had a keynote, so you probably know who I am. My name is Sandi. I'm the CEO of 3R. We're a mix of a telecom and blockchain company focused on emerging economies. Right now, operational in Sierra Leone. We are connecting around 10,000 people right now there. And yeah, we do a lot of work in Africa. And myself, I am a macroeconomist by profession, but I'm also a self-taught developer, so I like to go really deep into things in regards to also on the development side.
So what I love is this, that in order to reach a community, you need leaders. So talk to the leaders. I'm going to start with you first, Goudet. Is somebody wants to do business in Africa. Talk to the CEOs, talk to the founders, talk to those out there that are curious. What do they need to know?
The question is, how do you talk to leaders? Like, what do they know about
coming into Africa and doing business?
In the blockchain industry, right?
Correct.
So there's still some awareness to raise on the African continent, but Mostly, what I can tell from the leaders, political leaders and economic leaders, they feel like business leaders think like blockchain are opportunities, both financial opportunities, but also in general, like the technologies and the use cases, and I'm pretty sure we'll dive into that afterwards, but there are major, large use cases that blockchain can provide for leaders in Africa. So there is this positive apprehension, but on a more institutional side, I feel like from the discussions, it's the contrary actually, mainly in French-speaking Africa, because Ghana, Nigeria, South Africa is a bit different, but in French-speaking Africa, political leaders are circumspect. They think it's a risk, and a risk that should be managed, mitigated, not always to be forbidden, but still to be controlled. So there's this duality in perceptions.
So I'd love to now learn from you as well, Clayton, and you, Dr. Ram, is coming from a more Western front, a different mindset. What you thought or you were indoctrinated in about Africa, and then what you've learned and how beautiful the people are, and embracing of technology and innovation and also culture. So starting with you, Clayton, and then Dr. Ram, you as well.
I think the key when you look at the largest continent on the planet and that is full of resources beyond, I think, what we completely comprehend at this point, one of the biggest assets is the people. And in order to understand how to connect people, it is just simply that. We are already all connected through social media, socially. And it's figuring out, through business ecosystems, how to allow people to do what we do best, which is share and connect. And, creating an ecosystem that does that, then once you have an ecosystem that is foundational in connecting people, it's a matter of tying together other relationships from a business perspective of being collaborative and how to create additional value, for your community. So it's the connective aspect of knowing that it doesn't matter what continent you're on anymore, that we're already connected. It's how we apply the opportunity.
And Dr. Ram, for you.
Yeah, I think it's really important for people to understand that Africa is very different, from the United States. So spending a lot of time there, I was able to learn how to communicate. The people in Africa have so much to offer. There's so many resources. One of the previous companies where I was a CEO, and we went into Africa, we were into Ghana and Nigeria. It was one of the hardest areas to get into. Once we got in there, though, and we started developing and the people started understanding, we grew very quickly. It became the #1 market where I was a CEO, and this was a health and wellness company, because of the people. Africa has so many resources. So even though it has a slow upstart right now, I believe it will be one of the biggest areas for crypto and Bitcoin. I really do. I just think we have to spend the time, and you have to understand, you go into a culture, you have to live in that culture and not try to be back into the culture you're from. You have to adapt, and once you do that, and then people start understanding, I think, again, Africa is going to be a huge thing for this industry.
Now, Sandi, you and I have been able to talk and work on a special project overseas, and specifically within Africa. Talk about what regions for you have been more inviting and more welcoming to this technology that is blockchain. And I will tell you, depending upon the country you're in, there's some countries that embrace something. And Africa is not just one country. It is a continent, and is one would refer to as the birth and the beginning of everything. So from your experience, where are some places in Africa that really are adopting this and open to innovation when it comes to the world of Web3?
Yeah, so for us it's maybe a bit different, right? Because our main thing that we are providing is broadband internet, and we are welcome wherever we come, because internet is really, really lacking in Africa. So there's less than 1% broadband penetration rate in Africa. It's a no-brainer, and the governments and the communities know that they need internet enabled to be competitive and to grow, and it's on every level that we can imagine, because if you just think about it a bit, internet is actually interconnected into everything that you do. You don't even know it. You don't realize it until you're without your phone. And this is why we were welcomed really well everywhere. And in regards to blockchain, because we were also a part of a blockchain company, we didn't have any obstacles, to be honest. Even though there tend to be some regulations in place and so on, it's still welcomed as a blockchain technology, because they know it is enabling. Where the problems arise is what the African countries tend to do is they tend to limit outflow of cash out of their economies. And doing banking in Africa is really, really hard, because they will not allow you as a foreign business to do business there, make a profit, and then take it out. This is really, really hard, and you cannot limit that with blockchain and crypto. So that's a bit of a trouble that they have. They're really protective of their economies and trying to prevent outflow of cash.
So Jayden, I'm moving over to you. Now we hear this word, we're saying, what does Africa offer? Let's talk about also some of the disadvantages or challenges that there's 54 countries inside of Africa. What are some of the collective issues or collective problems that blockchain can solve? Because in that way, both are able to give, or maybe one might be weaker and stronger than the other. So Jayden?
Well, I think there's a tremendous opportunity for Africa and for metaverse space, because a play-to-earn concept, we've had it in the United States for an extended period of time, called games such as World of Warcraft, Fortnite. Now, the thing is, who plays these games? Generally, it's the kids play it to a certain age, because the valuations that you derive, or the income source that you derive, is not significant, especially for that part of the world. For the developed world, if you take a couple of $100 or $500, it doesn't add up to much to derive value or sustainment. But in Africa, you can actually see this as becoming a secondary source of income. So Africa, Latin America, South Asia, Southeast Asia, wherever there's a father supporting a family or a single mother trying to support her kids, this starts out as a need-based way to derive additional income. And as the industry grows, it facilitates full income. So while in the US we'll make $15,000, $20,000 a month for a middle-class person or family, but in the developing world, if you're making $2,000 or $3,000, that's enough. So play to earn facilitates those type of monies being earned, and that starts from being something that is a support income to actually becoming your full income. Now, for play to earn to capture traction and capture an audience, Africa and the developing world is the best source for that, because it becomes a giant database of users that have the need, coupled with industry that wants to serve that need. So it's the perfect strike zone.
So now coming over to you, Artem. What does Africa offer? From your perspective, why Africa? Why not, let's say, some other part of the world? Let's say your backyard. What is it that Africa offers?
As mentioned already, Africa is a great database for experiments, and in order for business to do business here locally in Africa, you need some infrastructure. And Africa is a lack of infrastructure, but not a lack of ideas, And for example, like Nigeria, they're like 60% population are young people, and 60% of population doesn't have a bank account. So they came up with ideas of the e-wallets, mobile wallets based on telco, it's really popular. And you can see this thing on every other African market, They came up with the ideas based especially on blockchain and crypto because of the regulation, because of the lack of banking infrastructure, and it offers a lot of companies a lot of options and possibilities, but in some other way that's not used in Europe or US.
I had an event in Egypt earlier this year, and Egypt is in Africa, for those some actually might not know. And I will tell you this, that I learned there, that it provided this ability to see that when you come together, When you go alone, you can go far, but when you go together, you go further. They built monuments that have lasted thousands of years, that they've been able to pull together cultures with so many different and unique backgrounds. And they can bring together what I did and my team did on creating a retreat that can help reset you. So, Dr. Ram, you have focused your life on getting people to a good place, to resetting their minds to the place where they always should have been, and that's clarity. So talk to those that are looking to go on a retreat, to maybe go heal. And then we're going to talk to you, Clayton, around the business aspects of, because I don't think the only way we should look at a country is to say, well, necessarily what we can take from them, because I do believe Africa has a lot to teach each and every one of us. It's a culture that has survived countless storms, countless pharaohs, countless conquests, and yet still today, people from around the world like me go there to learn from the sands of time. So with you, Dr. Ram, as we go now to the final mark, where each person can share a little bit about themselves, talk to us about the journey of wellness and why it does matter.
Well, so I love Africa because I do believe it's our beginning. If you look at the history of Africa, the people, the culture, they've been through a lot. And there's a thing, I'm a psychologist and a scientist, so we have what's called imprinting. So subconsciously, we generationally remember things. It's something we don't teach and talk about a lot. But as a culture, these people, the people there, they're so rich with wisdom to teach us because they've been through great things. They've been through horrible things. So it's a wonderful place to take your children to experience. I understand a lot of people that haven't gone there don't understand that, but from a personal perspective, it's an amazing opportunity. And from a professional perspective, I believe it is as well. I do think there's a lot that they have to learn, just like we have a lot to learn, like each of our cultures, each of our countries do. But it's a conglomerate of beauty and beautiful things and wisdom that I think has to be an important part of companies as they develop. I don't think you can be a world leader in Bitcoin or crypto or any kind of company unless you actually have Africa as one of the main targets. I really believe that because it is a beautiful country.
Clayton?
Countries.
I wasn't expecting to follow you. I think, as well, Sandi was mentioning, from a commerce perspective, being able to do business in a continent that you have, what, I'm probably mistaken, 27 countries.
54.
Okay, so 54 countries. See, I was halfway there. You have to create the connections between the entire continent, and that's not been done. There's so much diversification, you know, even just within the continent, but then also the perspective of colonization that's taken place over, you know, a few hundred years, and the disruptions that's done. And as Goudet was mentioning, the lack of trust, you know, from inside, outside, culturally, across the board, the ability to create transactional trust, you know, through a blockchain. But from a commercial standpoint, being able to provide a platform that provides a mechanism to bring funds and move money in and out of populations that is trackable, that is clean, that is trusted, that if you need to move it outside of the country, you can do that, whether you're a business or, as we've seen, being in 69 countries currently, that depending upon where your residence is and where you're deriving income from, you might not want to bring money into your country because of a tax consequence or because of a reporting consequence or where you want to allocate funds. So giving an opportunity for the creation of value at every level is a crucial component.
And Sandi, let's jump to you, and then we're going to come back, and I'm going to finish with you, Goudet, because I'd love to hear your kind of takeaway from it all. And Sandi?
Yes, so I want to come back actually to the topic of what Africa can offer, and we were speaking about, you know, all the resources that there are, and everyone's just thinking about, yeah, they have gold and they have diamonds and they have bananas, right? But the actual resource is actually the people, and that's the thing that I think we're missing there. It's a place, one of the few places on earth that still has positive birth rate. Their population is getting younger and younger, so I think that'll be the driving force. And everything right now is still built around the people. You cannot have an economy without that. And a lot of economies around the world are getting into trouble just because their population is getting older and older, and there's just no workforce. And I think what it can offer to Web3 in particularly is there are a lot of good Web3 developers right now already in Africa, and education is getting better and better there, and there are more and more Web3 developers. And there are also, if you compare the wages there, they're like, really minimal to what you would pay for a good developer outside of Africa, for instance. And it's not underpaying them, it's actually overpaying them, because also the cost of living is so low there. So I think this is what we should focus on, what Africa can bring to 3R, because that's the actual theme of the panel today. I think it's the people, and we should embrace that, and we should try and educate them and help them educate, and then we'll be able to source that knowledge and that manpower from there.
Artem?
Totally agree with everything that was said. We as a fintech that started in Africa, right now we have like around 70 engineers, Africa-based, and we hired in Africa, and as mentioned, young people, a lot of opportunities, a lot of ideas. That's everything that can Africa bring to blockchain and crypto industry. On some markets, we even start some new products. We see how that goes in South Africa, in Nigeria, and Kenya, and then later on we do the same in Europe or UK with our clients. So Africa is a great place just to run the ideas, learn new ideas, hire people, and do business.
Jayden?
Africa offers one thing beyond everything else, and it's not the natural resources, it's the intellectual brilliance that is well exhibited through history, reference to what you were saying in the sands of time. So we need to be able to tap into that, and the best way we can do that is not charitable endeavors, but financial empowerment, followed by financial empowerment, followed by financial empowerment, and then Africa can take care of itself and take its rightful place on stage in the world.
Beautifully said. Goudet.
Thank you. First of all, I want to not talk about Africa, but like African countries. As you mentioned, there are 54 countries, and I feel like this is something that maybe we weren't able to also address due to the limits of the time, but there are really different constraints, different situations, whether you are in Nigeria, South Africa, or Morocco, etc. What does Africa offer to the blockchain and crypto industries? It has been said, the people, the mind, the resources, also the markets, new revenue streams that are possible. I want to say that Africa offers the future to the blockchain and crypto industry. If you remember, the main idea of Bitcoin was to provide an electronic peer-to-peer payment system, right? And so now we're seeing that African users are using Bitcoin as such to remit, to send money abroad and back and forth and as settlements. And one last point is, due to the green energy potential of the African countries, I would say that it's also an opportunity for the mining industry to be able to mine cryptocurrencies with solar energy, hydropower, etc. So that's where I wanted to conclude, but I really want to stress the fact that 54 countries, there are a lot of different situations. So if you have to remember something, I would say that's it. Thank you.
So before we thank our panelists, I will tell you, for me personally, what Africa represents. I am the Forbes Monaco senior editor for crypto. I'm the advisor to a number of the people here on stage. But my earliest days were in a place in California in foster care, where I didn't have a family. And I am convinced that the bigger your family gets, the stronger it gets. And so I have today the opportunity to have Akon in my family, and Queen Diambi of the Congo in Chinwe. That to me is what Africa represents. It represents a family of thinkers, a family of philosophers, a family of learners, and a country that is offering all of us this amazing opportunity to come together united, as the African proverb says, that go alone, well, you'll go far. Go together, we all will go further. Thank you for your time, and thank you to our panelists today on this topic.